Hi, Steve Harrison with another Author Success interview. And if you've got a team of people, or even yourself, you want to go to the next level, I think you're really going to love this guest. Kelly Dorfman is a clinical nutritionist who's actually an award-winning author, and she speaks around the world to different organizations, all because people want to have more energy, and they're starting to discover that there's a real connection between the mood they have, the blahs, or the stress they have, and what they're eating or what they're not eating. Kelly, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to be here.
You know, how did you get so interested in this whole topic of nutrition and how it affects our mood?
Well, I got interested in my home life because when I was very young, my father had a brain tumor, and as a result, there were very devastating consequences to our family. And I always had an eye, even when I went to nutrition school, on what the brain and nutrition had in common and what we could do therapeutically with nutrition to help brain function. And then when I got out of school, I started seeing a lot of kids with development problems and cognitive issues. I started a nonprofit that would look at different creative strategies to help them optimize their functioning and be the best they could be. And through that means I ran into lots of experts and researchers, and 25 years later, voila, here I am, an expert.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you know, what can people do? I think people certainly can relate to the idea that this whole idea of better brain function could be useful. You know, sometimes we do have this feeling of, maybe there's a name that we can't quite remember. Is that actually related to what we're eating or not eating?
It is absolutely related to what you're eating or not eating, but unfortunately the connections are sometimes convoluted. So from a very simple perspective, what you can do, if you want to do something very simple and easy to just help your function get better, you can start by eliminating processed foods or minimizing your processed foods and sugary drinks. You know, some people are now calling sodas the new cigarettes, and because of how they affect obesity and diabetes and brain function ultimately. And so that's a very simple thing you can do. And of course, when you're stressed out and you're writing your book and you're going on book tour and you're doing all the things you have to do to publicize things, that's the time when you're drinking the coffee and pouring down the tea, and it helps initially, but then you find yourself crashing and burning later.
Yeah.
So that's something to really keep an eye on. And then of course you want to add the good foods, which are fruits and vegetables. And I think shooting for about a half dozen servings of fruits and vegetables and then building the rest of your diet around that can be very helpful.
Now, if somebody wants to just feel better and have more energy, and they want to know, like, what's maybe one of the easiest, quickest, best things they can do, obviously not, drink a cup of coffee. What's something that you would suggest that maybe they hadn't considered that would really help them and they'd feel the difference?
I think that the thing that is underrated the most is breakfast. I'm a very big fan of dinner for breakfast because when you think about it, do you really need energy at 10 o'clock at night? Because that's how you're eating your food. If you're eating a big dinner, you're eating so you have energy at 10 o'clock at night, but most people need energy at 10 o'clock in the morning. And so that's what you want to eat for, which would mean eating your protein or your buffalo or whatever you're eating in the morning and not at 7 or 8 o'clock at dinner time. And your whole digestive function is actually geared to have the strongest power in the morning, because the way nature has it set up is you're going to be, gardening or killing the buffalo or all the important things that you do during the day in the morning when it's light out. So your digestive enzymes are all geared up for that time. So they're eating exactly the opposite of what they need for better functioning.
So eat kind of have dinner for breakfast, or
Dinner
even
for breakfast.
so have your biggest meal perhaps should be breakfast. It sounds like.
Yeah, I think if you ever want to open a restaurant, Steve, it should be soup for breakfast.
That's great. That's great. And I know there are a lot of organizations and companies that have you speak. Why is that? What do you find what are these organizations really looking for, do you think, with their employees?
Well, we're talking about some of the basic things that you can do, and of course organizations are interested in that, but then they're also interested in some of the more creative things. Like you mentioned, remembering names. I mean, how many people start to forget names? Well, we know in research that starting at age 50, people start having age-related memory impairment. And these kind of things can interfere with your development as a company. I said country, but I meant company, because what's happening by the time you get to be vice president or a CEO or CFO of a company, you're probably in your 40s or 50s or 60s, and you finally got there, and you want your brain to be with you. You don't want to be starting to have issues with memory or creativity or energy, and yet that's when a lot of health issues start to step in. So we want to optimize our not only our major players in the corporation, but also all the people that are supporting them.
Yeah, nowadays people are looking so much for, holistic success. I think a lot of companies are focusing on that with their employees. They obviously always want increased in productivity, and when people are out sick, with the flu, because they just aren't really looking at their health. We tend not to really value our health, and I think that's one of the things until we don't have it. And I think
Exactly.
that's
Until
one of
we
the
don't have it.
yeah, and that's one of the things, great things I think that you're really bringing to people's awareness. So thank you so much. How could people who are interested in buying one of your award-winning books or having you speak to their organization, how can they contact you?
They can contact me through email, kelly@kellydorfman.com, or see me on Facebook, or they can call my office. And the number is 301-340-2239.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Kelly.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling, Steve.